We have Mary Miller McKeon. Am I saying your last name correct, Mary?
Oh, you are not. It's Mary McKeon.
McKeon. Mary McKeon. She is our QT2 marketing and sales director. She's going to discuss how to recognize our own coaching assets as a set of tools rather than a set of services, how to build professional self marketing approach, and how to develop and maintain effective industry partnerships. So Mary has a BS business marketing with over 18 years of experience in advertising and sports marketing. And Mary was a former professional triathlete, now a mama, and has been with QT2 Systems for 9 years. She's a very social gal. She's cool and hip, and I feel really cool when I stand next to her. She's a private chef and event planner, and she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the endurance space. So take it away, Mary. It's all yours.
Thanks, Amy. I'm not cool anymore, you guys. I'm not even social anymore. My son has being married, pregnant, and now a mom of two, one fur baby, and then a 1-year-old. I feel like I have no social life anymore. But I used to dabble in that stuff, and I do event planning, and I am the marketing and social director, sponsorship director with QT2. So I have some knowledge, but I guess Tim Snow actually put it great one year. No one's an expert at anything. And so we're always trying to continually learn and continually develop the skill, especially when it comes to marketing and social media. And I think the biggest thing in social media is that it's always changing. And especially during this time, during COVID, social media has become even more important. So last year in our coaches meeting, we went through local partnerships and how to develop local partnerships, what self-marketing was, and why we shouldn't be afraid of it. And then also we talked about how we can utilize QT2, our resources, or the company that you work with, if you're not in our coaching program, who you can work with and how you can utilize those resources to make the most over your business. But what I wanted to do today is almost take a step back and be like, okay, we know that social media is really important. We know that being involved in social media and involved from a marketing standpoint, outside of, putting training plans together, one-on-one, or communicating with your athletes, going to events, what else can you do that starts to build your credibility as a coach? And now more than ever, people are spending a lot of time online. So why not just take a step back? And if you haven't started, or if you're thinking about starting, or if you have a social media brand or presence, how you can tailor that a little bit more towards building your coaching business. So with that said, why is building your brand important? So with this, it really gives you the power to position yourself with a set of value propositions and differentiate yourself from other coaches. I don't know, Amy, if you know, or if anybody knows how many coaches there are in the endurance industry. There's so many. So what makes you different? Why should someone choose you? If athletes are out there looking for a coach, how are they finding you? What's also important about building a brand is it builds your credibility as a coach. It establishes trust. It builds a community of people around you where you can utilize them and network with them. And it ultimately grows your coaching business. So if we know that, where do you even begin? And right now I want you to, and you guys can take notes. Obviously we're going to send this over to you afterwards, so you'll have these slides. But I want you to look at your coach attributes. Your reputation in the sport is really important. Your experience in the sport is important. Your knowledge of the sport and how you're continually enhancing your coaching degrees, the CEUs that you're getting with USAT to continue to be a coach, what makes you different from other coaches, how you have experienced triathlon in an endurance community or endurance training, how that has affected the way that you coach and how you coach your athletes. What's your communication like? Who are your roster of athletes? What's your involvement in your community and your local partnerships? And have you been able to tap into that or utilize that? And what's your association potentially with a larger coaching group like QT2 Systems, or a company within the endurance industry? Those are all attributes that kind of buffer you up as a coach and support you as a coach and an individual. So step 2 is know who your target audience is. So our target audience, if we are coaches, are athletes, and people within the endurance industry. So what do athletes look for in a coach? They look for experience. How long have you been coached for? How long have you coached for? And how long have you been involved in the sport? And what's your reputation? What are your qualifications? How successful have your athletes been? And bottom line, or ultimately, how, as a coach, can you improve your potential athletes' athletic performance? So it really comes down to a personal decision. No, it's not how great you were at sport, although that is part of your reputation, but it's more how have your athletes that you have right now, or how athletes that have worked with you, improved. And I think that that's one really big selling piece. And so not only where do athletes look for in a coach, where do you find these athletes? So where are they looking? A lot of it's references and word of mouth, and you can hang on to that. And that can be a great business for you, is just, getting referenced and working with athletes that know other athletes. And you have this pool of athletes that have all come to you because of either word of mouth and references, which are the best kind of athletes. But it doesn't really, it's not the only way to grow your business. And absolutely, if you are involved in social media, it will build your business as a coach, and you will get more athletes based on your involvement in social media, because that's where they are and that's where they're looking. Oops. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, why is social media important? And again, this may be like 101 for a lot of you, but I think it's good to just reiterate this because it is so important, especially now with a lot of what we do is online, rather than in person. And we'll get back to live racing, but I think this kind of goes through social media, why it's important and what we can do about it. Social media is a connection, and we are all social people. Now more than ever, people are online, connected, searching, researching, building relationships online. So we need to be there. Social media also allows us to reach, nurture, engage the audience that we're talking to. So our athletes, no matter where they are in location. So you could be, coaching in Massachusetts, and you could have a Boulder, Colorado athlete. And a lot of our coaches are like that. When you use social media to connect with your audience, you can improve your awareness as a coach, your credibility as a coach. You can generate interest, new leads. You can attain new athletes, which ultimately brings your brand, boosts your brand and your reputation, and grows your business. So let's get started. And the next 10 to 15 slides, we're just going to go into these different points underneath this slide. So building your social media profile, and then understanding other ways to build your brand. So if you're not a social media person per se, maybe there are other different ways that you can get involved and still build your credibility and your reputation. But most importantly, with social media, it's really finding the right platform for you and tailoring your approach. So the biggest thing that I want to emphasize here is don't spread yourself so thin that you're involved in YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit. Like the list can go on, and you're involved in so many different places. And then you feel overwhelmed with the amount of social media platforms that you're involved with. And you no longer can spend those times. So your consistency falls off, and then your credibility kind of wavers because, your last post on Twitter was 2 years ago, and now you're only on Instagram and you're not even good with that. So my recommendation is stick to 2 to 3 networks, and we'll go through those networks and create a solid presence of each. The next piece of advice for your social media profile is sharing the right content on the right platform. And in the next few slides, we'll talk about what Instagram is great for, what is not great for, what Facebook is great for, what it's not great for. And what content can you use on those platforms that helps you become the best version of yourself and also sell yourself as a coach. And then also use of hashtags. Hashtags are really important. We'll go through that. It is a great way to get your content seen, and it is also a search option. So a lot of people ask, like, why do people even have hashtags? And we'll go through that on the next following slides, in a few slides. So in this, we have relevant and influential mediums in the endurance industry. So I just pulled about 10 different places, maybe 12 different places where social presence is influential and relevant. On the social media side, we have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And then on the other brand building opportunities that we discussed in the previous slide, I have webinars, blogs, podcasts, events, clinics, local partnerships, and setting yourself up on USA Triathlon and really developing and keeping up with your coach profile. The most prominent areas to promote yourself as a coach, and you guys guessed it, it's Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is a given here. It's the largest social network out there. Your target audience is out there. Older athletes are out there. Younger athletes are more apt to be on Instagram, but this new wave since COVID, Facebook has made a huge comeback. And so now it's almost like 50-50. You'll find every age group is on Facebook. And then Instagram is a visual social network. It is a perfect platform for photos, for videos, especially within the endurance community. We have racing photos, we have training photos, you have videos on top tips or how you're training. It really emphasizes photos, videos, stories combined with a strong hashtag feature that make Instagram ideal for triathlon fans and for your potential athletes. Best times to post on Facebook and Instagram, and I stick to this, you guys. I think it works. Middle of the day is obviously always kind of the best time. People are always scrolling right around the middle of the day. I use this for the highest piece of engagement and kind of plan my posts with QT2 and personal accounts, mostly in the middle of the day. Wednesday to Saturday, Monday and Tuesday, it's kind of like get back to work. But Monday, I would say, has a pretty high engagement as well. So this is a good chart for you guys to reference back to. And then we discussed LinkedIn, and LinkedIn isn't necessarily a place where you're going to find a ton of athletes or potential athletes, but I think LinkedIn is a really important piece to build credibility in your coaching profile or your coaching business. And why? It's a professional network. So you have a ton of different professionals from every different type of work in this one area. It's not for social accolades or selfie pictures. It's more of a professional way of posting news, industry news, personal thought on what's going on in your field of study. Your LinkedIn profile builds trust and credibility. It's a great networking opportunity. There are groups in LinkedIn, like triathlon groups in LinkedIn, that you can be a part of, and they're fellow coaches, companies, there's job profiles, there's job opportunities there. So it's a great place to set up your profile. It keeps you relevant and up to date professionally with the sport. And the most important thing about LinkedIn, it's not only your picture, which should be a very professional, clear picture. It's also really important to develop your profile description, because that's where you're going to get noticed as a brand. I wrote, the headline will answer your questions about who you are, what you do, and who you help. So make sure it's good. This is almost like an elevator pitch in a condensed way of saying 2 sentences on who you are and what you do. Other social media that's worth noting, Twitter. So Twitter kind of got a bad rap the last couple years, but it's come back, mostly less about pictures and more about news. So I use Twitter for news, blogs, webinars, industry information, community content, updates, especially I live here in Boulder, Colorado. And when the fires were happening, I relied on Twitter to update me on every every piece of news on the fire that was happening locally in town, and right above us in Rocky Mountain National Park. And it resurged the influence that Twitter actually has. So it's become more of a news social media medium and less about like selfies and training photos. It's more about just sharing content. YouTube is also another social medium that is all about videos. So here, if you use it in the right way and it's not a pixelated video, and it's professionally, I would say professionally done, but most iPhones that you have these days and probably smartphones has a great camera. Just make sure it's not pixelated, but videos are really important. And the consistency is also really important with YouTube. So training updates, training videos, how-to videos, strength session, compilation videos of athletes training or racing or what kind of year it's been, or just videos of you talking about almost like vlogging, like video blogging, I think builds credibility and gets you out there as a coach and a point of a resource. So a lot of times, and I get stuck with this as well, when you're doing social media, I always think, okay, content, what do I even talk about? So in the next 2 slides, there's 4 pieces of information that I think are really great about talking through different points of, hey, today I can do something about myself, or I can do something about, sharing tips. But I think this is important to help build a plan out for you, and just a place where you can tick off and be like, okay, these are 4 attributes that I have been working with in my posts. So the first one is be helpful. And I know there's a lot of content on these slides, but I'll read through them because I do feel like it's really important. As an endurance coach, you're in the business of helping your athletes achieve athletic goals. So if you don't have enough time to push or create these training articles that you can give them as useful information, places like QT2, we have an arsenal of a wealth of information on our past blogs that coaches can go into, see it, and share it on their social media links. So you can also post different training articles within the industry. That's another great idea. But it only takes a couple of seconds to share and retweet articles in the industry. That's really, I think, powerful, influential, again, building your credibility and your knowledge and showing your experience as a coach. First and foremost, and I should have put this first, is be yourself. You don't want to be someone that you're not, because it's never easy to maintain on social media. So one of the best things about social media is that it gives you true insight into who you are. But you're not only a triathlon coach, you're also human, and you also have hobbies, and you can share part of who your family is, or what your favorite part of training is, or maybe share part of like what your career was prior to triathlon, being a triathlon coach, or maybe you were a professional triathlete and you want to share a story. It gives you a good place for people to get to know who you are. Again, maybe you have a talent in cooking or knowledge in sleeping, or use products or sponsored products that you want to talk about. Social media is a great place for you to actually show what your interests are. And those athletes that you attract and work with, and even your peers, they know you for who you are rather than a selling point on Instagram or Facebook. Share results. So this is another thing that, as a social media director for QT2, I always want our coaches to share results, and I love reposting their results, but they're the closest thing to athletes, especially coming from an entity like QT2, where as a brand, we share athletes' results. But I think the most important part is getting our coaches to talk about our athletes. And there's nothing better than seeing how an age grouper or a pro has done in a race, or has made a huge transformation in their life, and showing their success. And it gives us something to talk about it, but it gives you something to talk about. I call it the humble brag, but congratulating your athlete for a job well done is something that you're not only going to get engagement with, but you'll probably get a repost. You'll probably get people commenting on it. And that's more chatter between social media mediums that will eventually grow your business. And then engage with others. Sharing content is a great way to present information to your followers. And social media is always about two-way communication. So spend a portion of your time, and it's always a hard thing to do. Like I'll go in, I'll post, and then I'll just put my phone away and not look at anything else. But it's really important to go through and the people that you follow to engage with them. So like their photos, retweet their photos, read their articles, because people are doing the same to you, but that's how you build a network. Respond also to those who mention you. So if you're, tagged in a link, and then you want to repost it or you want to comment in the comment section, that actually helps with the back end and the AI of pulling together information, and even what you see on the screen in your feeds. That will help boost your credibility. It will help show your information to more people. And it will just help you build relationships online. Share the right content on the right platform. So I mentioned this earlier, but the most important rule that I always follow is the 60-20-20 rule. 60% knowledgeable and helpful information. So anything about the sport that's helpful to you. 20% personal. So that might be like, my favorite meal tonight, or spending time with family, or a hobby that makes you. And then 20% selling coaching services. So that 20% isn't that much, but because the content that you're creating is so important and useful and informative, that 20% selling your coaching services should help boost your coaching business. The content that you share will vary depending on your social platform that you use. So again, these are the 5 kind of flagship, or I guess 4 flagship information platforms on social media. So Facebook, sharing updates. I like to, and I know this is like nobody does this usually anymore, and they consider it a faux pas, is linking Instagram and Facebook. But I do feel like it's important sometimes from a QT2 brand standpoint to there is a place for Instagram posts and Facebook posts, even if it's tailored a little bit differently to both, but linking that or doing something really similar to maintain brand consistency. So on Facebook, share your updates. You can share Instagram posts, again, tailor that message a little bit. Tips, motivation. We do calendar for the week, videos, blogs, community content, events. For Instagram, images and videos, it's king. Content should be tips, knowledge of sport, motivation, and not just about you, but about your athletes. Training, race results, events, anything we're sharing with a good picture or photo. And I can't stress enough, the good picture and the good video and a good picture is the most important on Instagram. If you have a pixelated or blurry photo, unfortunately, it's not going to get the same kind of visibility as it doesn't have to be professional. It just has to be clear and still. Hashtags are so important with Instagram. It's probably the most important place to use hashtags, and we'll go through that in the couple slides following this one. Twitter, we have the content used for this, updates, blogs, webinars, industry information, community content, content heavy material, I would say, less about pictures, less about personal updates, and more just about knowledge in sport or information in sport. Similar to LinkedIn, it is becoming a more professional place to post things. I think Twitter also is a little bit more about opinion, and LinkedIn is more about being as professional as you can be. And it's almost like LinkedIn, I would say, is more like a resume, and Twitter is more about an opinion. But both places are pretty similar. For Twitter, hashtags are useful and pictures are always a bonus, but not necessary. YouTube videos with engaging information, presentations, training videos, compilation videos. We went through that before. Again, it's you can link your YouTube videos to Instagram, to Facebook. Facebook's probably the best place to link your YouTube videos. And so you can cross promote that way. So here are hashtags, and people always ask, like, what's the importance of hashtag? Why are they important? They show how people create and join conversations on social media. So they are the place where you can search for information. They're the thread that ties the social media communities together, and they are how prospective clients find your coaching business online. So you can hashtag search triathlon coaching. And if you use triathlon coaching in all of your Instagram posts, then your feed will come up in that search, if that makes sense to you guys. Where are hashtags most relevant? Instagram is the most relevant place, and Twitter is also a relevant place. In fact, hashtags don't work well on Facebook. Not sure why. I think right now, in terms of the updates that Facebook has, it's not a place where you search for hashtags and you can find feeds, maybe in the future, but right now that's where Instagram kind of owns it. How many hashtags per post? I have no more than 11 hashtags per Instagram. I like to stick to 5, and I have 2 built within the content, and I have 3 to 4 at the end. I don't save all of my hashtags for the end. If something's relevant, like hashtag QT2, I'll write that, like hashtag QT2 pro athlete had an amazing result, Kona, and at the end I'll have hashtag Ironman, hashtag swim, bike, run, that kind of thing. So I'll build in the hashtags within the post. So no more than 11 hashtags per Instagram and no more than 2 hashtags per tweet. Hashtag ideas, I left you guys with a few of them. Again, for QT2, we always use "we got this." Hashtag triathlon training, triathlon life, triathlon coach. Those are all great pieces to continually build your credibility as a triathlon coach within the industry on social media. Other brand building opportunities. So let's just say, hey, that's great, Mary. I use Instagram. I use Facebook. That's all I'm going to use. I'll own that, but I'm interested in building my credibility in other places. These are where I would say spend your time. So webinars, blogs, podcasts, coach chat forums. These are places where you can use your expertise and your knowledge in sport, and you can go and you can work with someone like a Beth Shutt at QT2 and talk about, okay, hey, I have a webinar that I want to talk about X, Y, and Z. What day can I do that? Beth with QT2 can set that up for you. Same with blogs. I mean, everybody's looking for content to push out. As a social media director, I'm always looking for content to push out. So I get excited about blogs. I get excited about writings, any type of newsworthy information. We're always looking for expertise or different ways of spinning it. During COVID, I think one of our best blogs were motivating blogs were how to stick with it, what you can do in terms of COVID, and I think how people have grown from COVID, how we can band together. So those blogs have been really important to push out to our athletes. Also events and clinics. So utilize your local partnerships, your community, and your network to get involved with local events, or even with an Ironman event or a clinic that you want to put on. Last year, Amy came up with some great slides on forming local partnerships. So one was put on a presentation, a coffee with coach, either a run clinic in a local shop, something that you can do in your community when live events start happening again. Make it a plan to get involved that way. And ask your associated coaching group. So that's someone like QT2 that you work with, to how you can get more involved. There's all these different types of way that can get you as a coach out there and get you building your coach business, but it takes initiative from your side. Again, last year we went through local partnerships. Amy did a great job with that. I'm happy to share some slides if someone needs them. Amy, you can give my email, and they can reach out to me. But underneath this is, I chose a few bullet points. Local partnerships are a win-win for both the coach and the business. So it's really important to start getting your name out there. I mean, you go to a run shop and someone says, hey, I'm looking for a running coach, or I'm looking for a tri coach. And they say, oh yeah, Mary Miller, she's a great coach, even though I'm not a coach. But people will know your name and people will say, oh, definitely talk to her. She knows people. Or she's a coach. And again, they provide a great mutual reference base. So exactly what I just said. And then it also adds value to those local businesses. You have your customer base that you can throw out to your athletes, and then mutually they have their customer base that they can throw at you. So it's a win-win. And it provides the business owner with extra traffic during presentation time. So especially if you do the special shop night at discounts during a presentation. So you look for different promotions to support that local business. And again, it all comes back. It will come back to you, and you'll build up your roster, no problem. And then another really strong and easy thing to do, strong piece of advice, is setting up a coach profile on USA Triathlon. So do that, make sure that you're on there and that you're getting their emails and you utilize their resource page. I pulled a couple of slides from what I did last year with how we can help, and how entities, coaching entities or a coach association, whomever you work with, QT2, it being what I'm going to talk about here, but how we can help coaches build their brands. And I just wanted to reiterate, like, LLC is here to support our coaches as much effort as they want to put into it. So utilizing our creative services and our expertise in social media and our reach, we can easily cross promote and support you. And then if you're not a coach with us, again, it's coming up with the right kind of branded marketing materials. So what's your promotional kit? Do you have one? Do you have business cards? Do you have social media images or a photo of a box or a drop box of photos that you can pull from throughout the year and support your coaching business? Maybe think about that. Do you have a flyer? Is there a postcard that you can leave in local shops? A personal promotion kit we've gone through a couple of times, and we've started to roll that out this year, is working with our coaches with a photo and bio. And I have one following this slide as an example. But maybe you have your athlete list that you want to show off. Maybe you want to push out a quote that you always stick to, or your mantra, your vision, your mission, any articles that lets people know who you are and how you can help them. So these are different, again, branded materials that you can create on your own, and then you can push that out on social media or in the webinars or the blogs, however you choose to get involved and to up your game in terms of your coaching business. You can create these pieces and they can support you. From QT2, we do coach spotlights. So again, you'll see that in the next slide. We push that out on our announcement page. We have a newsletter. We have, coach or athlete spotlight in our newsletter. And of course, our social media channels, your reach, my reach, or QT2's reach, Outrival's reach. We can achieve so much by cross promotion, and your name and you as your credibility and your experience and your knowledge as a coach can get out there. So utilize those partnerships, utilize the people that you work with to share who you are and what you do. We also have a list of sponsors that always want to be able to support our coaches, and we can easily cross promote with them as well. So this is an example that I used last year in a coach promotion kit. This is Tim Gary, and kind of who he is, what his qualifications are, what it's like to work with him, why you should work with him. It's branded with QT2. There's a quote from Tim. It's a professional photo. It's something that looks great, is concise. It's something that you could print out, you could leave somewhere, and they know who he is. One thing I would say is I would put his email on there, because if you just left it somewhere, they would want to get in touch with them, and how would they know, except for QT2 systems. But yeah, that's one thing I would do, is put your information or how they can get in touch with you. So it's almost like a business card, but more than that, because they get so much from it. This is a local flyer, so it's a start to finish run program, and we use this for one of our local running groups. It was to get people out there and involved. We had a race at the actually February 2nd, 2020. And we kind of included exactly what the package would include, how you would be training with other people. There was a Facebook community. So again, as a coaching entity, we were able to support our coaches and their coach that was involved with this, and create a private Facebook page and support with marketing materials and cross promote on social media. And then this is just a local opportunity, building your team. This is more just getting people out there, getting them involved with triathlon. How do they get involved with triathlon? Is this, this was a beginner triathlon program. And so this went out to a couple of triathlon shops and got people involved with trying out triathlon for the first time. And it again had program details, how long it was going to last, who it was for, and kind of motivated them. And that could be used on social media, or it could be printed out. And then this was last year when we had a new coach come on board. A couple different things going on here. So we had a picture of Coach Leo. We had his background. We were super excited to include him in the team, in the coaching arena. We did a private Facebook notification to our athletes and on our big brand page and our national team page. And then at the very bottom, you can see about QT2 Systems LLC. So if this was something, again, this is promotion for QT2, but it's cross promotion, because Coach Leo gets the promotion and gets the highlight, but it also shows who QT2 Systems is. So anytime that, I'm just thinking out loud, like if we did an athlete spotlight, pretend this was an athlete and they just came on board with you. And then where it says about QT2 Systems, we say about the coach's name. And then we kind of give a background on the coach and who the coach is and why this was a great fit. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. There's a lot of different creative ideas, but it's just the coaches working alongside of creative services like myself to come up with exactly what would help in cross promotion and what would help in supplying and establishing or initiating confidence in the coach to be able to promote themselves. Okay, so that's it. I did go through a bunch of stuff. Again, I wanted to take a step back instead of talking about, going further from where we talked about last year on local partnerships and what you could do as a coach to promote. I wanted to go back and say, hey, okay, there's a lot of people out there that haven't really developed or worked on their social media platforms. And this is what you can do, what you can talk about, kind of we went through the basics and where you can go from here. So if you guys have any questions, please ask. I'll leave it. I don't know how much time we have left. We have, 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We have a quite a few questions here. They're all really good. Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
All this information, I always learn something new every time you deliver a presentation. So this one was from me. What are the biggest don'ts on social media? So you talked a lot about do's.
Oh, the don'ts.
And we see a lot of people do the don'ts.
I know. There are the don'ts. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's like open to discussion, because I don't like to say like, oh, don't do that. Like what, like, give me an example, Amy. And I'll say.
Like maybe politics on your professional page?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. I would say like deeply personal things like divorce, relationships, politics, money, Um, anything like, the things that like people say are the worst part of relationships, like these are the tough part of relationships. What do they say? Politics, religion, money. I would say avoid talking about that at all. And I,
Anything that a country song is about.
yeah, exactly. Or maybe even like really aggressive, not aggressive, but like, yeah, I would avoid aggressive pieces of information in the news. So, you know, Black Lives Matter was very important time, but to really take it to the next level, I had a couple of friends on social media take it to the next level, and I just couldn't comment on it because, from a professional standpoint, I felt very similar to how they felt, but I just didn't want to show that on a public stage, especially as a coach.
Before you push the button, what are some things you should say to yourself? Like if you're feeling like something inside saying, you probably shouldn't do it, you probably shouldn't do it, right? But is
Yeah,
there anything else
if
you
you're in
should
a
think
bad
about?
mood, yeah, if you're writing things in a bad mood, or you feel like that bubble up of like, oh, this could be confrontational to some, I would pause on that, wait on it, calm down from it, and then look at it again and say, is this really appropriate to post?
Jonathan wants to know, when posting on social media, how do you remain authentic yet still garner attention, especially if you're someone who trends towards being more introverted? And also, why do you recommend limiting hashtags? I think that first question is really a lot of us. I think a lot of us feel like, oh, we want to put ourselves out there, but we're a little introverted and it's just not a comfortable thing for us naturally. How do we remain authentic but get attention?
Um, oh gosh, I will say I'm an extrovert, but I'm like an introvert, and I always second guess what I write down. Um, and when I write, I always think, okay, I'm not writing this for myself. I'm writing, and I'm not a coach, but I do work with a lot of people. So I'm not writing this for myself. I'm writing this for my athletes. And I always think that way. So it's less personal, and more, what's the advice that you are giving to your athlete, or like, I would almost, um, don't think about think about the audience that you're writing to, but when you are writing the content directly, before posting it, write like you're writing to your athlete. Does that make sense? It kind of makes it smaller, like especially for introverts, it makes it smaller because you're talking to a specific person, and then take a step back and see how you can more generalize it.
Like
Um,
take on a role of a teacher or
yeah,
write for them, not for yourself.
yeah, it's like I can give the greatest advice, but then when it comes to me giving my own, like, I have a really hard time telling myself what I tell other people because I second guess myself, or I don't think it's the like I just go back and forth on second guessing. Um,
And then why do you recommend limiting hashtags?
so limiting hashtags, if you have too many hashtags, it actually negates everything. I think that Instagram has an algorithm where you, I think it's greater than 15, you can't search for them. They become, it almost cancels it out. So it's not searchable anymore. And if you want to use more hashtags, which I roll my eyes at hashtags when people use more than 10, because I just feel like, I don't know why. I just feel like why didn't they include that in the post? Why do they have to hashtag everything? Um, you can include that in your comment. So if you wanted to use more than 10 or 11, or like, again, I use 5 to 6. If you wanted to use more, you could do your first comment could be a slew of hashtags that people could be searching for. But in the post directly, I would stick to the smaller, the better.
Anne wants to know, how much is too much for social media posting?
Yeah.
And is there a certain number of posts you should aim for in a day or a week?
Yep. So I think a good number, if you are new to social media and you're just like starting to post, someone like Angela with I Race Like a Girl, I think they post almost every day. Um, and I think that that's great. They have an engaged customer base. I think initially, with QT2, we post about 3 times a week. And I say that that's probably the best you can show, I'm going to take a step back in. Instagram, I'm talking about. I would post 3 times a week on Instagram. You can post every day on Facebook. It's a conversation. Facebook isn't limited to, like, it's almost like a stream of not conscious thought, but like, one day could be calendar, next day could be top tip Tuesday, next day could be wellness Wednesday, next day could be, throwback Thursday. And then, it could be burger night on Friday and you want to show a picture. Like Facebook, I feel like you could share, and Facebook, Twitter, you can share more information. Instagram, I would limit to 3 to 4 times a week max. And I would say 14 to 16 posts a month. And you can come up with some really good quality, consistent posts like that. You'll start to build a following. People that overpost on social media, I almost feel like they lose followers because they lose people reading all of their work. It's a personal.
I feel that way with stories. Like when someone has like 13 stories all strung out. What is like, so we have stories have been the new thing, right? In the last few years, stories have gotten bigger on Instagram and on Facebook. Do you think like one a day? What's the maximum amount of stories you should have in a day?
Yeah, I think like with stories, and that can have its own section. I should have done my own slide with stories, but I don't. I get excited about stories. I think like 2 to 3 a day. I mean, you can post anything on stories. It's almost like Snapchat. Like they just go away. For an event, if you were doing a clinic or an event, I would say have 15 stories to showcase exactly what you do, because you can go back and you can create a highlight. And then in your Instagram profile, you can name that highlight, event 1, and they can see the start and the finish, and they can kind of get an idea of what happened that day. So it's like a story is like essentially a story. A highlight is a combination of stories that show who you are.
Yeah, I find stories a little bit easier to hide behind than a post. So
Yeah.
if you're somebody who's a little bit more reserved,
Yeah.
and it depends on my day if I feel more reserved or not, but I always feel more comfortable posting a story knowing that it's going to go away than putting something on an Instagram post or or a Facebook. So if you're a more reserved person, sometimes I think the story is like a more comfortable way.
Yeah, and a story also is like it's not good enough to be a post. A post is like you said, a post is something that stays there. And you'll get likes on it, and then you could have that insecurity of like, oh, I didn't get that many likes. Whereas stories, you can't like it. People see it, they're gonna read it, or they're gonna watch it. They're gonna get to know you more on a story. Whereas a post, it's really showcasing yourself or your athlete or a race or whatever.
Gretchen wants to know, our website's dead.
I feel like they're dead. Websites are like the landing pages. I don't think I mean, you guys, I can't say, as a coach profile, you shouldn't have your own website, but if you're a big blogger and you're not if you're a big blogger, then maybe a website has a place. But I just feel like social media kind of takes the place, and how you develop your social media profile takes the place of a website. If you're associated with QT2, it's a great, like I would say, focus on your profile on QT2 or Outrival or Run Formula or Cycling Formula, and really build that profile up, and develop it, and then like reinforce with your social media. I mean, it's
do you
just,
think simpler is better with websites?
yes, make it super simple, clean, simple. Throw it at me and I will help you with that, Gretchen, if you need it.
So Mary Kelly loves your content. So she's curious to hear your ideas on ways to build community among geographically dispersed athletes from all over. Hers are all over the world because Mary has been from across seas recently, and she's moved back to the States. She misses the in-person interactions. She's tried virtual camps, which are great, but too time consuming to organize. And with, you know, she has 4 children at home. So how do you build a community and be virtual? How about a private Facebook group? What she's asking.
Yeah, I think a private Facebook group would be great. I mean, Zoom calls, I know that they give you headaches because so many people are on Zoom calls, and you probably with 4 kids at home, you're probably an expert at Zoom, but also the social media is probably in your face all day long. I mean, during COVID with QT2, we had our what was it called, Amy? Our happy hours, those were awesome. And that gave us a place where we could sit and have in-person interactions and kind of have that camaraderie. A private Facebook group, absolutely. Like our private Facebook groups with QT2 and Outrival and Run Formula have highly engaged athletes. They're all meant for team members and for coaches, and it's a great place just to interact. And you can quickly be, you know, Facebook Live, and you can do a hangout there too.
For my roster of athletes, I have a private Facebook page for my QT2 roster of athletes. So Mary, I do that with because sometimes it's just easier to put a post in Facebook than to like email 12 of my athletes all, you know, the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's something else I do personally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, the more engaged that you can be with your athletes. And again, it's, you know, the social media is just the support part, and the webinars and the blogs, that's just like the knowledge part. And you connecting with your athlete, I think, is the most important way of getting to know them and getting to know what makes them tick to make you a better coach to get the results that they're looking for. So the more time you can even virtually spend with them or communicate with them, the better. And Facebook kind of does it all, I think.
Anne is questioning, when creating the marketing material, does the
version, so an electronic version.
Yeah. Oh, does the electronic version seem to be the way to go with virtual remote world?
Yeah, definitely. And I think even with technology and almost past my level of expertise, or I just have to study some on it, but I think you can do some really amazing things virtually, or not from an e-version for marketing materials nowadays. Gosh, we were talking about this the other day. I forget what Amy, we were talking about this. It's like a presentation, and then your head is like a little like blot on the presentation page, and you kind of talk them through. So let's just say you have a training plan, or like who you are as a coach is in front of them, and then you can have like a little bubble head of you, and you can be like, hey, I'm Mary and I do this, like, and so people can get to know you without having to meet you and having to set up a Zoom call. It's almost just like a prepackaged version of you. It's a virtual you. I can take a look at it. I mean, I'm always interested in how we can, what are new ways that we can build, but I do think e-versions are the best. And you can put it out on social media, and people can get to know you. And you can get someone from Germany coming over and saying, hey, I want to work with Anne Rollins.
Yeah. And it depends, I think, too, like if it's an older population, probably materials better, you know, materials better. But if it's a young, like our age, you know, 30 and younger, like our age and younger, you know, e-marketing probably would do a lot more. Joe says, yeah, too much hashtagging comes off as a little inauthentic and can pull in robots. You've talked about that before.
Yep. Joe and I get pretty passionate about that.
Yeah.
The too many hashtags, you can't do it.
And Go ahead, Joe.
I said hashtag QT2 Summit 2020 hashtag.
Yeah.
And Anne asks, do you recommend a group or a page for Facebook?
A group.
A group or a page?
A group.
A group.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then what are the big differences of the two, group versus page?
Anne, that's a great question. And I'm going to get back to you on that. Amy, you might know actually better than me because I know that you.
Yeah, I have a group. I have a professional page, or I'm sorry, I have a page, a professional page.
Yeah.
It started when I was a professional athlete, but now it's athlete and coach. So I have a page for that, which is more informational.
Yeah.
And then I have a group that's with my own clients that is more, there is like informational, but that's something that, my goal is it to be a little bit more interactive.
So I'd almost say and if you had a page that talked about you as a coach, right, then it can be like that's your branded page, but a group is more personal. People feel like everyone's approachable and they can ask stupid questions and they can ask, experienced questions, and they don't feel like anybody else is really seeing it. And it's like a safe place. I would say groups are like safe places, and pages are just more professional.
And I have a personal page and I have a professional page because I know people who know me personally, like your brother and your sister and your uncle and your aunt don't want to see triathlon stuff posted all the time. So sometimes I'll touch upon the personal page and post my professional stuff, but most of the time I like to gear it more towards my professional page because the people on my professional page are that industry, if that makes sense. So if you want to separate, that's what I do to sort of separate it, if that helps you out. And let me see. And then Reem has a question. Do you recommend posting your own race results on your professional Instagram, Facebook page versus your personal page?
I'd say both, Reem. And when you say your own, you mean like your performance, not your athletes. Yes. So I would, yeah, heck yeah. I mean, that's humble brag. Your athletes want to see that. Like,
I think it's hard for a lot of people to be like, if you're humble, it's hard to humble brag. So how do you humble brag and be humble?
So okay, so let's say you win overall, you win overall. And that's like a great humble brag that you definitely want to post about, but then you're like, I don't know, is that too much? You could start out with a quote on how to, like, the quest or the journey of pushing yourself to the absolute limit, right? And like, there's so much to be said about sticking to a plan, working hard for it, staying present in the moment, and achieving what you set out to do. I'm so pumped. I won today's race, and I hope it's a testament to my athletes. Like, do you know what I mean? It's setting up the race result with more of a I guess a humble way of saying, hard work pays off, and I appreciate the support from everyone around me. I won this race. Like, does that help with the humbleness?
If you need help, Reem, just ask Mary. She'll write your lead-in sentence for you.
I love writing those lead-ins. I can't do it for myself, but I can do it for you.
I think that's helpful. I mean, where I always struggled was, okay, well, if I'm being coached by someone else, if I put my own race results on my professional page, am I, like that's
you did that.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I kind of do them both. Sometimes it's like, yeah, okay, I went through this great. Sometimes I put really bad experiences on my professional page to show that it's like,
yeah, that's good.
Not just.
You're a better rounded coach. You're a better coach when you show the highs in your life and the lows in your life. And I'm not talking like, the like politically, relationally, money wise, but like the struggle like that we know we all go through. And put yourself as a new triathlete. What are they looking for? They want to see the highs and the lows because they're experiencing all of it. And then at the very top, when you're at the top racing your very best, you show the highs and low and you're like, oh yeah, you're human, like, so being able to see all of it will make you a better coach, but it also makes you a more approachable coach.
If you post road rash or a broken nose or bruises all over your face, it's going to be the most liked photo on your social media for the year. I guarantee it.
I'll take your word for it, Amy.
Any other questions? Reem, did you have anything else you wanted to ask or share?
No, all set.
I hope this was helpful. I felt like it was like so generic, but I wanted to give you guys tactical pieces of information where you could take it and you can go with it. So hopefully.
Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up, Mary. Mary, thank